Now we got this table for free to hold our weights and stuff in our bedroom. The problem is that it's not strong enough to hold the heavy weights, which are the Bowflex whatever thingies. So I'm gonna go ahead and fix it. Other than the weird paint on this thing, the legs, we didn't realize at the time, are actually plastic and they're multiple parts. They kind of screw together and they're not one cohesive thing. So we're gonna have to make this thing a whole lot more solid and also not make it out of cheap plastic. Tool-wise for this one, it's gonna be pretty simple. We're gonna be using some 1x1s and then I believe these are 1x2s. I forget exactly what they are, but it's just basic cheap wood. We have a drill, we'll have a jigsaw, we're gonna have a pocket hole set up, and then we're also gonna have my favorite, the miter saw. Disassembly is pretty easy. They just screw off and they kind of screw into each other. There was one little hiccup that we'll get to in just a moment. You can kind of see it. There's these little brackets that hold everything together. But if you take a look here, it's just simple, cheap plastic that screws together. And it works if you're not doing stuff that's heavy and needs support stuff. But we do need support stuff, and these are the things I'm talking about. These things are embedded into the wood. They're a pain in the butt to get out. I'm gonna have to do something with that. I tried a couple of ways to get this out, and what ended up working for me was channel locks. Just gripping on there, you can see that the plastic does get crushed a little bit, but it doesn't damage the table, which is what I was concerned about, was ripping the table apart, unscrewing these. But all you do is unscrew them, and then they're out, and you can start working on the table itself. So because the middle shelf has holes in it, and the top shelf has some holes in it, we have some work to do here. The essential idea here is that we're going to cut out where the legs are going to go through with the jigsaw. We'll mark that out, and then we'll build a frame that we can slide the middle shelf down on top of, and then we can attach the top shelf. So it's not a big deal, but it's going to require a little bit more work than what I was planning on doing. And basically, I'm just going to use the jigsaw to hog out that area that I want to remove and go up to essentially what I'm calling the border or the molding around the edges. And I should be able to slide the leg right through, which then we can attach the frame to and increase the strength of this thing greatly. Now that we have the holes figured out, we're just going to lay out the legs, measure them up, and make sure that we can recreate the exact size of this table. Take the currently existing ones, attach them, use that as a reference, mark out the other ones, and cut them up. Then we just need to take some quick measurements and figure out how long we need to make the stringers for the table to add strength. Now I'm just using pocket holes to attach all this stuff. It's super easy, it will be strong enough for what we're doing, and it saves so much time. And before attaching those stringers, I just wanted to make sure I matched the height of the original shelving with the new legs. So just use the old leg, mark out a line, and then we can use that as a guide to attach everything. And with pocket holes, it's as easy as clamping it on, checking for square, and attaching them together. Here you can see the whole kind of thing attached together. The pocket holes are sticking out just for strength purposes, it's not for beauty, but we need to put that middle shelf on there as it is currently placed. It's not too big of a deal, but we just needed to line everything up and then slide it down. And I attached these with a couple of screws as well, just to make sure it stays home. You could use glue, whatever, but I just kind of got it lined up and forced it down, and it worked just fine. We are in the home stretch, but I do not trust that particle board to hold all of that weight by itself, so we're going to add a couple of cross members here to add some strength, and luckily we had enough leg left over to do that to the top and bottom, and we get them in there, no problem with just a few screws. And all that's left as far as the build goes is to attach the top. I realized I did not push the top right corner in all the way on here. Leave me alone. It was a long day. But all it is slides on there, and then I put a couple screws in the top to hold it in place, and it worked beautifully. I lied. There's actually one more thing I did here. Across the bottom, I added some cross members there just to make sure that the legs didn't splay out from the weight. So I put a stringer across the back and across the sides, but left the front open so we can slide stuff in there, and you can see the screw holes for what we did on the top to attach that. Last step really is to paint, and we should be done. And here it is all painted up. My wife liked the red and white, so that's what we went with. We're cutting back here just a second just to show that it does hold the weight. I actually sat on this and I weigh more than double all that stuff, so it worked out just fine. Again, we went from this where the weights were down on the ground, at least the heavy weights, and then we went to this where the weights are up on top, easier to get, and looks better overall.